Hey, in today's video, I'm going to be delving into one of the most requested topics that's been on my channel, maybe ever. I've gotten the most comments, the most emails, and that is on what is the difference between a driver swing and an iron swing. Well, you may have watched this video on some other channels, but if you've been watching my channel for any time at all, you know that I'm always going to have a little bit of a different take on it. So if you'd like to hear a different opinion, one that might differ from what all the other YouTube instructors are saying, then by all means, keep watching. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I'm on a journey to hit it longer and straighter from tee to green, be more solid and accurate just in general, because I think that's what makes golf more fun. If you're on a similar journey, you'd like to have a little bit more fun with your game, pick up some of those yards off the tee that maybe you've lost recently, and maybe hit a couple more fairways, then by all means join us, hit the subscribe button, like this video at the end if you liked it, and leave a comment down below. Don't forget to pick up a couple free items that I'm offering. I've left links in the description down below. One is for my 50 tips distance ebook. It's going to help you hit the longest drives of your life. And the other one is if you're a slicer, it's a 30-minute slice cure video. I think both of these items are really going to help you with your game. Okay, so as I mentioned in the intro, definitely by far the #1 most common comment in the last year to many of my videos has always been a question. They'll ask, do I apply this to the irons the same as I do to my driver? So people are asking, do I make the same swing with my driver as I do with the irons? So the simple answer is yes, you do. Hey, thanks again for watching. Thanks for watching my channel, and I'll see you next time. Are you still here? Oh, okay. I guess you'd like a more detailed explanation more than just a simple yes, no. So let's get right into it. Okay, so one thing I've been trying to teach people since the beginning of my channel is how to be more distance efficient with their driver. So that means two things. That means #1, I'm creating the most club head speed for my effort. And #2, I'm creating the most yardage from my club head speed. So that together combined, those two things would give us the illusion of being sneaky long. In other words, I look like I'm swinging very gentle and smooth, and yet I'm really hitting the ball a long way. And that's kind of what everybody's after, aren't we? Now, some details under that umbrella are these. #1, with the driver, we definitely would like to hit up. Probably the more the better. The more up we can hit on the ball, by degrees, probably the longer we're going to be able to hit it given any club head speed. The other thing that I'm looking for on a driver is at impact, I'm looking for the left arm to line up with the club shaft from the camera angle in a straight line, because I've had the club head catch up to the hand, wrist, arm, all the way up to the shoulder, and not to be this way, but instead be this way. Now, to add that in with my advocacy of playing a very aggressively forward ball position like this. So I've got this thing off of my instep here, and I've got it all the way up onto the big toe, possibly even onto the middle toe, depending on what you need. And these two factors combined, catching up with the left arm and getting the ball positioned here, is going to allow us to really bottom out earlier and hit the ball well on the way up, giving us that extra distance. But now with an iron, and here I've got a 9-iron, that strategy won't necessarily work. Instead, a better strategy is to come into the ball hitting downwards. On a 9-iron's case, I'd like to hit downwards maybe about 4 degrees. Well, a driver, I want to hit up 5 or more degrees. And so I'll definitely need some forward lean at the moment of impact, like this. I do not want the club shaft to have caught up to my left arm at impact now. I want it catching up after. And so I end up like this with a forward leaning club. In this case, a 9-iron, I've got it about 4 inches in front of the leading edge, just like that. And this is going to guarantee that, number one, I hit it with the measured loft of a 9-iron, the way it's supposed to be hit. I also hit down the right amount, which gives me leading edge digging into the turf properly. It's going to give me ball first, turf second contact. So those are the main differences in strategy on what we're trying to do between a driver and an iron. A driver, no forward lean at impact, possibly, in my book, even behind it, even a half a degree or a half an inch negative lead would be great too. Well, on all shots off the ground, especially irons, we're looking for an ever increasing amount of forward lean so we can get a clean strike off the turf. Now, of course, this is what gets us into the how. How are we going to make what seems like two such distinct swings, one that hits up and one that hits down? Well, actually, with the genius of club makers, we don't have to, and that's why I gave my simple answer is yes, these swings can be identical if you're just trying to hit stock shots between the driver and even all the way up to the 9-iron, even to the sand wedge and the lob wedge. You can use exactly the same motion and hit the ball with both iron and driver ideas. Let's look. Okay, consider this for a minute. You've got a driver and again my 9-iron sitting here, and you see how I'm holding them both in my glove hand, and essentially the handles of the club are terminating in precisely the same 3D position in space. Right here, of course the grips kind of get in the way so it can't be super precise, but you can see the point is that I don't need to change anything about my setup to hit either club. In other words, I've got a bunch of tools here that I'll change depending on what kind of job I need done, but I've only got one machine, so it's like having one drill and 13 different drill bits depending on what I need to drill out. So I can set up to either one of these with my body in exactly the same position, or any other club in the middle would all culminate here in this same position in space. So here I've got a square or maybe slightly closed stance and wider with the driver. And the goal is to make it catch up to the ball at impact with my left arm. But here I've got the club further back in my stance with my 4-inch forward lean, and I'm all set up to hit the 9-iron. The three things you're going to modify are ball position from the driver to the 9, but you see how the body is in the same spot. Of course, you're going to stand closer to it because a 9-iron is much shorter than a driver. And number 3, you're just going to do a little bit of a modification to your stance. Now here I'm in my typical driver stance, big toe ball position, about 14 inches from heel to heel, 18 inches from toe to toe. Now, it's okay for me to leave my left foot where it is on the 9-iron, right about here, and I can just adjust my right foot, similar to what Ben Hogan talks about in his book, 5 Lessons. I'm going to narrow up the 9-iron, and I'm going to push this foot forward, effectively giving me a slightly open stance. So now, my hand is in the same place, but now my feet have made this subtle adjustment to where now I can strike the 9. Now in my hands I've got a 5-iron. A 5-iron is going to be somewhere in between. On the same line here, it's going to be somewhere in between the 9 and the driver. I'll have a 5-iron move forward about 2 inches in my stance compared to a 9-iron. And of course, the 5-iron is also about 2 inches longer. So I'll have the ball out about 2 inches further away. But my hand and glove, my glove hand and the handle are going to end up in the same place and space. So I've got the same bow, I've got the same measurement from thigh to handle. The only thing that'll change in my 5-iron, it will be the stance. Of course, I've got it a little more forward, and I've got a little bit more width to my stance, about 2 inches, just like everything else was 2 inches. So about a 2-inch wider stance, still slightly open, and I'm ready to hit the 5. All right, so the big key here really is in the last 5 or 6 inches of impact that is going to decide whether or not we need to take a different stroke or a different type of swing, depending on if it's a driver or an iron. So in the last 6 inches here with the driver, you see, if I bring the driver in 6 inches from impact, you see I have a very similar forward lean as I would with the 9-iron at this point. I've got the handle about 4 or 5 inches out in front of the ball. But see, in this last 6 inches or so before impact, the handle of the club at this point is slowing down. It's not advancing nearly as fast in the targetward direction or vector as it was back here somewhere. So it's not moving much more, but the head is moving the fastest it's going to go in the entire swing in these last 6 inches. Therefore, in these last 6 inches, I'm going to go from this forward lean on the driver at the 9-iron ball position to 0 forward lean, because just the wrist is freewheeling these last 6 inches. There's not a lot of tension there, and it's catching up, even though I'm making the same motion. Now, conversely, with the 9-iron, take the same stance here. The 9-iron is going to strike with about 4 or 5 inches of forward lean. I've struck the ball, it's gone, and now the handle is going to be acting the same way. It's going to be slowing down. It is in the process of slowing down as I come into impact, while the head is speeding up, getting slingshotted around the hands. And so by the time I reach the driver ball position, again, I've caught up with my left arm. So in other words, I'm going to make the same swing every time. That's just coincidentally, the club head, no matter what club I'm using, is going to catch the left arm at the left shoulder and right off of the instep of the left foot. So that means on a driver, if I reach my low point with the driver, that'll be right about here, 5 inches behind, and I can start to strike up on this. Also with a 9-iron, which would sit here relatively, I'm going to be coming in with the same motion, intending to bottom out in the same place. Right about the left heel or the left instep is where I'd like to bottom out the club at what you might call a 0-degree angle of attack, or the low point, you could also call that. So that would ensure if my low point, let's put this a little more accurately here, my low point would be right here in between the two. So I'm reaching my low point after the strike of the ball on a 9, but I'm reaching the low point with the driver a little bit before. Therefore, the club has a chance in the last 5 to 6 inches of turning upwards into the ball and hitting on the upswing. So in summary, once you can master 3 skills, these are the 3 skills you're looking to master. You're looking to get really good at being able to make the same swing that bottoms out in the same place every time, and that's with right at the left heel or left instep. That's number 1. Number 2, you want to master the adjustments in ball position. This will give you the proper forward lean if you're doing number 1. Number 3, you're going to master the small adjustments you need to make with your stance. Watch, I'll leave my left foot in the same place. There's my driver stance. A little bit closed maybe to account for the upstroke. And as I move the right foot, as the irons get shorter, there's my 5-iron stance. Here's my 9-iron stance. I'm just moving the foot almost directly towards the tee in a line. And there's my sand wedge stance. Let me show you from this angle now. Okay, there's the driver stance, slightly closed and the widest. Here is my 5-iron stance. Now slightly open, this foot slightly over the line and a little narrower. Here's my 9-iron stance, even a little more open because I'm going to hit down on the ball, and narrower. And then my sand wedge stance for about a 100-yard shot will look just like this. Now I think it's a lot easier to master those 3 ideas very precisely than worrying about developing a completely different swing, whether you're hitting your driver or your irons. What do you do then if you have a hybrid, or if you have a 3-iron? Do you use your driver swing or your irons? Well, in that case, you'd have to come up with some hybrid swing in between. Who knows? With my method, you don't have to do any of that. It's one machine, like a drill. One machine action. The golf swing, like the action of a drill. It just goes around. A drill just goes round. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't hammer. It doesn't saw. It just goes around in a circle. And these are your drill bits. Whatever job you need, you're going to put on one of these, attach it to the machine, and then you just press go and the machine goes around. All right, let me hit you a couple shots here, and you'll see at the setup that you won't be able to guess which club I'm actually going to use until I set one down. So